continuing to read The Pilgrim's Progress. This Christiana, for that was her name from the day that she, with her children, betook themselves to a pilgrim's life, after her husband had gone over the river, and she could hear of him no more, her thoughts began to work in her mind. First, for that she had lost her husband, and of that the loving bond of that relation was utterly broken betwixt them. For you know, said he to me, it is only natural that the living should have many sad thoughts in the remembrance of the loss of loving relations. This therefore of her husband did cost her many a tear. But this was not all, for Christiana did also begin to consider with herself whether unbecoming behavior towards her husband was not one cause that she saw him no more, and that in such sort he was taken away from her. And upon this came into her mind by swarms all her unkind, unnatural, and ungodly treatment of her dear friend, which also troubled her conscience, and did load her with guilt. She was moreover much broken with recalling to remembrance the restless groans, brinish tears, and self-bemoanings of her husband, and how she did harden her heart against all his entreaties and loving persuasions of her and her sons to go with him. Yea, there was not anything that Christian either said to her or did before her, all the while that his burden did hang on his back, but it returned upon her like a flash of lightning, and rent her heart in sunder. Especially that bitter outcry of his, "What shall I do to be saved?" did ring in her ears most dolefully. Then said she to her children, "Sons, we are all undone. I have sinned away your father, and he is gone. He would have had us with him, but I would not go myself. I also have hindered you of life." With that the boys fell all into tears, and cried out to go after their father. "Oh," said Christiana, "that it had been but our lot to go with him. Then had it fared well with us, beyond what it is like to do now." For though I formerly foolishly imagined, concerning the troubles of your father, that they came from a foolish fancy that he had, or for that he was overrun with melancholy humours, yet now it will not out of my mind, but that they sprang from another cause. And it was this, that the light of life was given him, by the help of which, as I perceive, he has escaped the snares of death. Then they all wept again, and cried out, "Oh, woe worth the day!" The next night Christiana had a dream, and behold, she saw as if a broad parchment were opened before her, in which were recorded the sum of her ways. And the times, as she thought, looked very black upon her. Then she cried out aloud in her sleep, "Lord, have mercy upon me, a sinner." And the little children heard her. After this she thought she saw two very ill-favoured ones standing by her bedside and saying, "What shall we do with this woman? For she cries out for mercy waking and sleeping. If she be suffered to go on as she begins, we shall lose her, and we shall lose her as we have lost her husband. Wherefore we must, by one way or another, seek to take her off from the thoughts of what shall be hereafter. Else all the world cannot help but she will become a pilgrim." Now she awoke in a great sweat, also a trembling was upon her, but after a while she fell to sleeping again. And then she thought she saw Christian her husband in a place of bliss, among many immortals, with a harp in his hand, standing and playing upon it before one that sat upon a throne, with a rainbow about his head. She saw also, as if he bowed his head with his face to the paved work that was under the prince's feet, saying, I heartily thank my lord and king for bringing of me into this place. Then shouted a company of them that stood round about, and harped with their harps. But no man living could tell what they said, but Christian and his companions. Next morning, when she was up, and had prayed to God and talked with her children a while, one knocked hard at the door, to whom she spake out, saying, If thou comest in God's name, come in. So he said, Amen, and opened the door, and saluted her with peace be to this house. The which, when he had done, he said, Christiana, knowest thou wherefore I am come? Then she blushed and trembled. Also her heart began to wax warm with desires to know from whence he came, and what was his errand to her. So he said unto her, My name is secret. I dwell with those that are on high. It is talked of where I dwell, as if thou hadst a desire to go thither. Also there is a report that thou art aware of the evil thou hast formerly done to thy husband, in hardening thy heart against his way, and in keeping of these thy babes in their ignorance. Christiana, the merciful one, hath sent me to tell thee that he is a God ready to forgive, and that he taketh delight to pardon offenses. He also would have thee know that he inviteth thee to come into his presence, to his table, and that he will feed thee with the fat of his house, and with the heritage of Jacob thy father. There is Christian, thy husband that was, with legions more, his companions. Ever behold that face that doth minister life to beholders, and they will be glad when they shall hear the sound of thy feet step over thy father's threshold. Christiana at this was greatly abashed in herself. And bowed her head to the ground. This visitor proceeded and said, Christiana, here is also a letter for thee, which I have brought from thy husband's king. So she took it and opened it, but it smelt after the manner of the best perfume. Also it was written in letters of gold. The contents of the letter were these, that the king would have her to do as Christian her husband, for that was the way to come to his city, and to dwell in his presence with joy forever. At this the good woman was quite overcome, so she cried out to her visitor, Sir, will you carry me and my children with you, that we also may worship this king? Then said the visitor, Christiana, the bitter is before the sweet. Thou must, through troubles, as did he that went before thee, enter the celestial city. Wherefore I advise thee to do as did Christian thy husband. Go to the wicket gate yonder over the plain, for that stands in the head of the way up which you must go. And I wish thee all good speed. Also I advise that thou put this letter in thy bosom, that thou read therein to thyself and to thy children, until you have got it by rote of heart. For it is one of the songs that thou must sing while thou art in this house of thy pilgrimage. Also this thou must deliver in at the further gate. Now I saw in my dream that this old gentleman, as he told me the story, did himself seem to be greatly affected therewith. He moreover went on and said, and that's the end of the reading for today. Have a good day.